Now, I'm not normally one to argue, but let's argue. Ronnie Dio versus Ozzy Osbourne. Coming up. Hi, guys. Welcome back to Classic Guitar Rock. I'm Jeremy. Take a minute, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Now, the Ozzy versus Ronnie argument is one of those that has gone on for years. It's almost as big as the Sammy versus Dave argument in Van Halen. And I got to tell you, I've kind of changed. I've kind of morphed over the years. I had always squarely been in the Ozzy camp, that Ozzy was the better singer in Sabbath. But I got to tell you, that has kind of changed over the years. And I really kind of like my approach with Van Halen. I have to look at the two bands as almost different bands. Obviously, the style with Ronnie was a lot different than what Ozzy did. Ronnie's a very different type of singer than Ozzy was. And as I've gone back and kind of relived some of those albums, listened to them again with new ears, meaning my ears aren't really new, but I've listened to them again after a long time. And over the last couple of years, my opinion has kind of changed, and I find myself more and more in the Dio camp. Now, obviously, the body of work is much larger with Ozzy than with Dio. Dio only did, technically, I guess, four albums, 5 albums. He did the ones we all think of, right? Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, and then later Dehumanizer. And I think there's another one after that. And then there's the Heaven and Hell albums, which really should just be called Black Sabbath albums also. But a lot more history with Ozzy. I mean, obviously, Ozzy was the singer for 11 years, something like that. If you consider 69 when they started and he was out of the band by 79, 10 years, something like that. And this is something interesting I never really thought of. You know, Tony Martin was a member of Black Sabbath longer than Dio was. Of course, we don't talk about Tony versus Ozzy. For whatever reason, it's Ronnie versus Ozzy. But if you go back and look at the first 3 Sabbath albums, you know, you've got Black Sabbath, you've got Paranoid, you've got Master of Reality. I mean, those are classic albums. And I believe, there's debate on this, I believe Black Sabbath was the first heavy metal band. Some people will claim it's Led Zeppelin. Some people will say it's Deep Purple. Some people will say it's Judas Priest. In my mind, Black Sabbath invented heavy metal. The first 3 Black Sabbath albums are heavy metal. And the history of Black Sabbath in the 70s, I mean, it could be a mini series, a soap opera on people just drinking away their future, right? Drinking, drugs. Every member of the band will tell you that once they started making money, around the time that Masters of Reality came out, they were just going through the money on cocaine, on drink, on Quaaludes. I mean, you name it, they were doing it. To the point that several of their albums, if you read the notes on their albums, go to Wikipedia and look these up. Pretty much the theme through all of these albums is, yeah, we were really doing a lot of drugs and, we didn't have our crap together. I mean, that's the history of Black Sabbath from about 73 to 79. They still had some good stuff in there, but they had a lot of crap in there. Never Say Die, that album sucks. Okay, there's maybe one good song on it. Other ones are hit and miss. Technical Ecstasy, there's some okay stuff. Sabotage, it's okay. Volume 4 is pretty good. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is pretty good. I don't think they ever matched the quality of the first 3 albums throughout the 70s. And then it finally came to a head on right after Never Say Die. They finished the tour. Ozzy was just not into it. He was drunk all the time, wouldn't contribute, wouldn't do anything, and finally he got fired. And we all know this is not a video about Ozzy's solo career, but we all know what happened after that. He got together with a phenomenal band that basically pulled his butt out of the fire, saved his life, basically, and his career. That's kind of a whole nother story. But then as far as Black Sabbath is concerned, and it's interesting how Sharon Osbourne plays a role in all of this too, because her dad, Don Arden, managed Sabbath. And Sharon Arden, at the time, before she was Sharon Osbourne, she recommended, hey, let's get this Ronnie Dio, who just left Rainbow, into Black Sabbath. And to be honest, on paper, Ronnie Dio in Sabbath kind of seems like a marriage made in heaven. I mean, here's a guy that loves singing about Dungeons and Dragons and demons and stuff, and Sabbath needs a singer. So they bring him in. Obviously, Dio brought a whole different thing to Sabbath. And Ozzy was great in his own way, had a very unique voice and stage presence. But in my mind, talent-wise, singing-wise, Dio brought it to a whole new level. All similar to Sammy, bringing Sammy into Van Halen. Nothing against Dave, but Sammy's the better singer. Ronnie's the better singer. And Ronnie was a lyricist, where before Geezer Butler mainly did most of the writing for Sabbath. Now all of a sudden you had Ronnie. And reading through some things, it looks like there was tension between Ronnie and Geezer. And I don't know if it was over writing or whatever, but I would imagine that might have come into play, because now all of a sudden here's a new guy, Ronnie, who's writing a lot of the songs and that sort of stuff. But anyways, Heaven and Hell comes out in 1980. Great album. And I don't know if people knew what to expect. I was a little late to the party. I remember a friend of mine had Mob Rules and got it right when it came out in 81. And I remember kind of digging that. But at the time I was still listening to like Paranoid and the first album. So I was a little behind. I was just I think just starting high school or about to start high school. But, again, a little later to the table for me, but when I started listening to Heaven and Hell a few years later, and I'd already kind of been listening to Mob Rules, man, that's some good stuff. And Tony Iommi even says that Ronnie Dio gave us a big injection. No pun intended, right? he gave them kind of breathed new life into the band, because he brought a new energy, intensity. As far as I know, Dio has never had substance abuse problems. I've never heard that said about him. He always had his act together, and I think that shows. You got these two albums, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, that are phenomenal albums. And as I go back, if I want to listen to a Sabbath album now, I pull out Heaven and Hell or Mob Rules. Those are probably my two favorite Sabbath albums. Now, that hasn't always been the case, but that's kind of where I landed now. And to be honest, some of my change of heart has been due to Ozzy and Sharon over the years. The first three Ozzy albums, well, let's see. Blizzard of Oz, Diary, masterpieces. Okay? Masterpieces. Bark at the Moon, okay. Ultimate Sin, okay. Speak of the Devil, awesome live album. So those are 5 albums total from Ozzy. I like them. They're good. But I was kind of done with Ozzy when Jake left. Nothing against Zach. I just was not into the music that was happening after Jake left. And just haven't been a fan. You see the way that Ozzy and Sharon have treated Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake and other people. They're just not good people. That has kind of colored my view also. So over the long sweep of years, as I think about Ozzy versus Ronnie, and this could change in a few years, but as of today, I got to go with Ronnie. Which might seem strange, because in the scheme of things, he was a part of Sabbath for a much shorter time, but I just think the quality of the work with Ronnie was way more consistent and was better than the stuff with Ozzy. They started really strong with the first 3 albums, and then it just kind of was hit or miss after that, and they were their own worst enemy. So yeah, right now I'd have to say I'm in the Ronnie camp for the best version of Black Sabbath. So what do you guys think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Take a minute and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of Classic Guitar Rock. Bye-bye.